3.
Oh, I broke the law.
If you're like me and you've been watching YouTube content for like 10 years, there's probably like, I would say 2 to 3 channels you've watched for a minute. Number 1 would probably be Roadkill. That was probably on the list at some period of time. Number 2, Mighty Car Mods. The boys in the land down under are probably one of my favorite channels to watch because no matter when I watch them, it's just like a breath of fresh air. But number 3 is without a doubt, in my opinion, Hoonigan. Hoonigan's been around for a long time, 10 years to be exact. Okay, they've been giving middle fingers to anyone that says that what they're doing is wrong because at the end of the day, Hoonigan is a brand that does not give a shit about doing anything besides rad shit with cars with a cool ass audience that wants to support and keep the enthusiast dream going, which is wild to consider that now a wheel company is Hoonigan. Hoonigan is wheel company. It's like Ace Ventura all over again.
Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn.
So I'm Alex Martini with 2 underscores on Instagram, and today we're talking about cars. More specifically, we're talking about like this really weird news of Hoonigan now being WheelPros, which is going to be a whole trip down memory lane if this is new to you. So hopefully you subscribe. Which, by the way, drop a comment below and when you think peak Hoonigan was. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about this because we do have to go back in time. If you don't know who WheelPros is, I'm going to try talking about that, and then I'm also going to talk a little bit about Hoonigan because Hoonigan is no longer Hoonigan. It's different Hoonigan. And I also want to be clear. I know people that are in Hoonigan and I know people that are in WheelPros, and all of them are awesome and I love them all, okay? I'm just covering my ass here because I know that this is a super sensitive subject to almost everyone in the room. Okay, so Hoonigan started 10 years ago, founded in Long Beach. In 2021, they had up to 30 million monthly views and 180 monthly minutes watched of content. They did cool builds, cooler people, and I would likely say they shaped how car enthusiasts view YouTube content and just the entirety of what it means to be a car enthusiast. I loved, and still do love Hoonigan and what they stood for. They were the closest thing to like a brand I wish I would be able to make because it's so raw and authentic. WheelPros, on the other hand, different bucket. WheelPros is an absolutely massive company. It's a conglomerate that started in 1996 by somebody named Randy White, and since the beginning has pretty much been making moves of acquiring companies. That's their MO, and they're really good at it. Not a bad thing, but they're really good at it. But besides the point, if you want to see the whole history lineup of who they've managed to snag on green and blues, you can do so. In 2021, this is the important information. Hoonigan is bought by WheelPros. Ken Block was still with us. It was a really big deal, and the whole point of the partnership, at least externally, sounded like it was a way for Hoonigan to get access to more stuff because they were growing and they wanted to do more stuff, and to get more stuff, you have to have more parts, and to get more parts, you got to have a partner. And I feel like that was kind of the external messaging. That's what a lot of people thought. By the way, I really appreciate if you're looking to mod your car, or if you need to buy parts, mod your car at Martini Works. That would mean the world because we're starting over and it's just Dakota Gels and I and a couple friends, and it's literally how we buy the ramen that we had for lunch today. It would mean the world. Anyway, it didn't really make sense just to say that they needed more parts because Hoonigan could get that stuff from anywhere. At the same time, WheelPros also bought Throttle, the YouTube channel, which was really, really interesting of a move to make because it was like, well, what the hell? Are they gonna start selling parts direct to consumer and pretty much cut out the dealer network? And so there was a lot of concern of what they were doing, and I remember the conversations vividly. Either way, nothing really happened from 2021 to 2023, at least on the back end, until October 25th, when WheelPros announced that it became Hoonigan. And the article that got shared was really the first step of what I would say a very interesting way to share the information. And if you guys have an opinion on this, feel free to share it below. I'm just here sharing the news. WheelPros announces rebranding to Hoonigan. WheelPros, a leading provider of aftermarket vehicle enhancements, announced today it is rebranding to Hoonigan effective immediately. The new name embraces the spirit of automotive culture and signifies the company's dedication to expanding its impact and fostering passion in the industry. What matters that I think is really interesting interesting is that Randy White, CEO of Hoonigan, said, "We are thrilled to embark on this exciting journey together as Hoonigan. This rebranding represents our commitment to not only embracing the rich heritage of automotive culture, but expanding our horizons to welcome a growing community of enthusiasts." That was the announcement. Obviously, as most people would read something like that with the name of Hoonigan and knowing the kind of audience that Hoonigan has, it didn't necessarily go over very well. Here's why. Hoonigan's old tone, if you went over to the About Us page that Hoonigan still has up, they sound much different. They sound like Hoonigan, which is, we're much more than a brand, we're a community, an entire subculture fueled on a shared passion of going fast and breaking things. We don't just create our content, we live for this shit. Their mission statement is to not get caught up in mission statements. Their mission is just to make cars fun. But if you go to Hoonigan's new website, which has a warehouse picture up at the top, it feels much different. At Hoonigan, we're dedicated to bringing enthusiasts like you the most comprehensive lineup of performance brands to drive your passion. We're the leader in the automotive aftermarket with our cutting-edge designs, engineering, and state-of-the-art distribution facilities. What feels a little bit weird, Hoonigan's no longer founded in 2010, at least on this page, or Hoonigan Racing Motorsport Division. It's now Hoonigan started in 1996, and they have continuously pushed the boundaries of style, performance, and innovation in the aftermarket automotive realm. If I was in WheelPros' shoes, it makes perfect sense. It's a brand that's well known. It's known across the world. Everyone loves the name Hoonigan. They love the brand of Hoonigan. They love what it stood for, and the Herts and the Vinnies and the Bryans of the world and the fabricators that made that channel possible. I think a lot of people aspire to be like them. They grew up thinking they could do the things they could do, or tried to do the things that they did, or became a version of that because they were such an influence when they were growing up. And from WheelPros' point of view, it's an easy win to say, if we want our brand to be known, we'll just take the brand that's already known and just make it ours. We already bought it, it's ours, they sold it to us, we can do what we want. And honestly, it's a pretty smart move for a company to do that. Like, saves a whole bunch of time, saves a whole bunch of YouTube videos, saves a whole bunch of explaining, but that's just it. From the Hoonigan perspective, the Hoonigan brand means a lot. At least it means a lot to me in the sense that I grew up watching Hoonigan and thinking to myself, these guys know how to authentically be themselves and be a part of this ecosystem that's in the industry where money's involved. Because anytime money gets involved, things get weird. But they just did what they wanted. And at least on the camera, they did what they wanted. And it felt refreshing. Even up until recent, it felt refreshing. It still kind of feels refreshing. I don't watch them as much as I used to, but I think for me personally, it felt like it was a declaration, and it didn't feel like the audience that had built Hoonigan to where they got to was involved. And I think that's the part that hurts a little bit, and it feels a little bit weird because the history that I know Hoonigan as is gone. It's erased from the record books. Is this a big thing to be mad about? No. Kind of, I think so. Actually, yeah, because it's like you put your heart and soul into something, you support these brands, you support these people because they stand for something, and then it's just kind of like, oh, by the way, what you know the name for is now different. And that is a really tough place to be in because it kind of feels like the rug was pulled out underneath you. I think for me, at least, being a part of that community for so long, it kind of felt like it just happened and you just kind of have to suck it up, and there's nobody in front of the camera to kind of talk to it or talk about it or take ownership of the change, and it feels just a little weird. I want Hoonigan to stay alive. I want it to evolve because it can't stay the same. I'm not dumb in that sense. I know it was gonna change the moment the decision was made in 2021, but I hope that that team that's now responsible for taking care of that brand understand the amount of heart and soul that went into it to make it worth what it was, to make it so valuable a private equity company bought it. And if that can be maintained, I'm really excited to see what happens, because immediately after the announcement, on the same other side of the fence, Leah got announced as doing really cool stuff with her dad's Hoonicorn and doing incredible stuff at the SEMA like burnout pits, and they had record attendance and people fell in love with the brand and they were doing serious cool stuff. All that stuff feels fantastic. So I don't want to just dismiss it as like, oh my God, this world sucks and everything about this decision was bad. I'm hopeful that it will evolve. I just worry sometimes, like I said before, that it meant something, and what meant something in Hoonigan, what was to me was authenticity. And I do want those core elements of that that of this brand to stay. And I hope WheelPros does a good job with it. We'll see how it goes. You guys will have to let me know what your thoughts are on the situation. I had to film this a couple times because I just want to make sure that no matter who you're watching this from or what position you're watching this from, you don't come back and think that I'm out to get you or that there's some sort of clickbait title in hopes that I make you guys look bad. Because like I said before, I know a lot of people at WheelPros. I know a lot of people at Hoonigan, but I also know hundreds of thousands of automotive enthusiasts that loved what Hoonigan meant for them. And I hope that this video can be seen as, don't f it up. Got it? The good old Wisconsin guys up here. I feel like we finally started the first trend of leaving big companies as content creators. Now West Coast starts doing it and all of a sudden it's a big deal. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Alex, AlexMartini with 2 underscores on Instagram. We'll see you on the next one. Adios.